All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. We're going to completely demystify exactly how you can transform your hard-earned cash into serious long-term wealth. So, how do you make your money make money? Well, what's really wild is that doing absolutely nothing with your cash actually guarantees you're going to slowly lose it over time. I know, it feels safe, right? Just leaving it sitting there in your checking account. But because of inflation, prices are constantly rising while your money literally just sits there doing nothing. So if you're holding on to $1,000 today, in a few years, it might only buy you like $800 worth of stuff. We need our money to actually go to work for us. Section 1. Building your financial foundation. But before we can even talk about growing your wealth, we've got to plug the leaks. Eliminating an 18% credit card interest rate is literally the best risk-free return you can possibly get. Official SEC guidance is super clear on this. There is virtually no investment strategy out there that will reliably give you returns to match an 18% or higher penalty on a credit card. No way. So before anything else, put away the plastic and aggressively pay down the card that's charging you the highest rate. To clear that debt and actually free up some cash, you want to use the 50-30-20 rule to categorize your budget and strictly enforce your financial boundaries. It's basically a simple pie, right? 50% goes to your absolute needs, things like rent and groceries. 30% goes to your wants, that new TV or weekend trip. And 20% goes straight to savings or debt repayment. Knowing exactly where your money goes completely empowers you to make smarter decisions about where to grow it. Moving on to Section 2, the Apple Cellar, or smart saving. Okay, so once you've got a handle on your budget, it's time to talk about saving. Think of saving like storing apples in a cellar. The cellar keeps your apples totally safe for a few months, but planting an orchard, that multiplies them over years. The cellar, which is your savings account, is incredibly safe. You know exactly what you have, and in the US, up to $250,000 is federally insured. But you wouldn't want to plant all your apples, right? Because then you'd go hungry today. On the flip side, if you never take any seeds out to plant an orchard, you'll never multiply your harvest for the future. Here's the math on that. If you leave all your money in a standard savings account, earning a tiny 0.5%, while inflation rises by 2 to 3%, you are actively losing purchasing power. Sure, your balance is technically going up, but the actual stuff you can buy with that money is getting more expensive at a much, much faster rate. So, to protect the cash you do keep in the cellar, stuff like your emergency fund, you absolutely need to move it into a high-yield savings account, or HYSA. Instead of making a literal pennies on the dollar at a traditional brick-and-mortar bank, an HYSA might pay you 3 to 5% annually just for keeping your money there. It just makes the cash you need in the short term work a little bit harder for you. Next up, Section 3, planting the orchard. Let's talk about investing. Now we move over to the orchard, where taking a calculated risk with your seeds creates some truly explosive growth. Seriously, to show you the absolute magic of compound returns, think about this. Historically, investing just $1,000 in a broad mix of stocks over 30 years grows to over $17,000. Assuming a historical average return of around 10% per year, your money makes money, and then that new money makes even more money. It just snowballs and accelerates over time. Now, instead of risking your money trying to pick one perfect apple tree, an index fund allows you to effortlessly own the entire orchard. When you buy a broad index fund, you aren't gambling on one single company's success. Instead, you're buying a tiny slice of hundreds or even thousands of different companies all at the exact same time. This is a huge contrast to the massive danger of betting on a single company that could totally fail. Owning the 500 largest companies in the US, on the other hand, has historically averaged an 8 to 10% annual return. Think about BlackBerry back in 2008. Everyone thought it was the future, right? But if you bet the farm on it, you lost almost everything. But if you bought an S&P 500 index fund instead, you bought Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and 497 others. The winners naturally just pull the whole basket up. All right, Section 4, navigating risk and reward. Of course, having an orchard means dealing with the weather. The reality here is that all investments carry some degree of risk, and the value of stocks absolutely can and will rise and fall with market conditions. Unlike that FDIC-insured savings account sitting safely in the cellar, the orchard doesn't have a safety net. In a bad year, the value of your stocks could drop significantly. But here is the truly fascinating part. While stocks are super volatile year to year, holding a diversified portfolio over a 20-year timeline significantly reduces your risk of losing your initial investment. Historically, the stock market has recovered from every single major crash to reach new all-time highs. The absolute biggest mistake investors make? panicking and selling during a downturn, locking in those losses, instead of just riding it out. Remember, time is your best defense against risk. You also need to protect your orchard from pests. You've got to watch out for these major red flags of investment fraud. The SEC explicitly warns us to immediately ignore anyone promising high returns with little to no risk, because, let's be real, it simply doesn't exist. Always verify you're working with licensed professionals, and just ignore those random investment pitches you get in group chats or on social media. Okay, Section 5, putting wealth on autopilot. Now that you understand the difference between the cellar and the orchard, let's make this entire process totally effortless. First up, you should absolutely automate your workplace 401k to grab any employer match. Guys, that is literally free money. If your company offers to match a percentage of what you put in and you don't take it, you are actively leaving money on the table. It is for sure the most straightforward win in all of personal finance. Setting up an automated monthly contribution is what's called dollar cost averaging, and it's brilliant because it completely removes the temptation to panic sell or try to outsmart the market. By automating a set amount, let's say $100 every 2 weeks, you naturally end up buying more shares when prices are low and fewer when they're high. You completely bypass the whole emotional roller coaster of trying to time the market. Here's a really good rule of thumb. If you need the money in under 5 years, keep it in the cellar. But if your goal is over 5 years away, plan it in the orchard. So if you're saving for a house down payment in, say, 3 years, stick to the high-yield savings account. You do not want a sudden market dip ruining those plans. But for long-term goals, like retirement, that money absolutely needs time in the market to grow. If you follow these 4 exact steps, you'll build a totally reliable, stress-free engine that grows your wealth quietly in the background. Choose a platform with low fees, fund your account, pick a broad index fund so you own the whole orchard, and then just automate it. It really is that simple. You do not need to be some sort of Wall Street stock-picking genius. You just need to be consistent. Always remember this super powerful stewardship principle. Building financial discipline starting with just $20 today perfectly prepares you to handle thousands tomorrow. It's really not about having a huge fortune to start with. It's about proving to yourself right now that you can manage a little bit effectively. Those small automated habits, they compound massively over the decades. So, the big question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to just keep all your apples locked up in the cellar forever? Or are you finally ready to start planting your orchard? The blueprint is literally in your hands right now. How are you going to